Welcome and hello. My name is Jim Elwood. I'm the director at the Jackson Hole Airport. We're here today to unveil the 2020 Wyoming Aviation Economic Impact Study. It's been sponsored by the Wyoming Department of Transportation, and we get to hear comments from Governor Mark Gordon, Wyoming DOT Director Luke Reiner, as well as Wyoming Aeronautics Commission Chair Bill Devore. Following the remarks, we'll be hosting a live panel with question and answers from the public. We look forward to your feedback. That panel includes the Wyoming Office of Tourism, the Wyoming Business Council, as well as the Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport. As I mentioned, we'll have time for Q&A at the end, and we'll conclude with a short video summarizing the results. You know, it's interesting. Wyoming has a rich history of aviation, going all the way back to 1911, when the first airplane landed within the borders of the state. Additionally, we were a key player in creating a coast-to-coast airmail service, really the golden spike of the aviation industry and airmail. United Airlines had a headquarters in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And then, of course, we've got the longest running aircraft manufacturer in the country down in Afton, Wyoming, producing aircraft continuously for many years. That organization is Aviat, and they continue today to create those aircraft. Aviation is a key factor in our economy, promoting business and supporting the citizens of the state of Wyoming. Airports throughout the state are important catalysts attracting and retaining for economic development. Notable economic development that flows directly from those airports and out into our community. You know, the state periodically undertakes these studies to determine the annual economic impacts of the day-to-day operations of Wyoming airports, including commercial service and general aviation facilities. It's my honor to introduce Governor Gordon. As a Wyoming native, he grew up in north central Wyoming on a ranch. He ultimately became the Wyoming State Treasurer and then elected the 33rd governor of the great state of Wyoming back in 2018. Welcome, Governor Gordon.
Every day, Wyoming Aviation keeps us connected by facilitating the transport of people and goods to and from destinations across the globe. Aviation is often a silent partner, supporting many aspects of our economy and enhancing our quality of life. Without it, Wyoming would not be able to compete for business or thrive with robust tourism, agriculture, and industry. Aviation in Wyoming is responsible for significant economic impacts. Roughly 5% of Wyoming's economy, or $2 billion in economic activity, is generated by aviation in Wyoming, including indirect and induced impacts. This activity supports 9.5% of the state's employment. That's 22,000 jobs, and accounts for $942 million in payroll. These jobs aren't just the ticket agents, security officers, pilots, and aircraft mechanics. They also include many jobs in the service industry. People who use airports to access our communities, patronize our restaurants, hotels, and shops, and visit our stores. Many jobs in healthcare, agriculture, and forestry are also partially supported by aviation. For instance, many farmers and ranchers rely on aviation to control weeds and insect pests, and to seed and fertilize crops across our rangeland and cropland. Aerial firefighting also plays a vital role in our state, preventing the loss of life and property by helping to control wildfires from the air. The largest portion of economic impact from aviation comes in the form of commercial air travel. On average, 718,000 visitors arrive every year in Wyoming, most on commercial airline flights. These visitors contribute $1.5 billion in economic activity by supporting local businesses. Commercial airline service doesn't just bring in visitors, it's also relied upon by many businesses to attract new employees and more importantly, to bring new economic development opportunities into our state. Between 2018 and 2019, Wyoming led the nation and far surpassed the national average in the percent change increase in annual employments. This is largely attributed to the state's Air Service Development Program, which generates $13 in direct economic return on every dollar invested in commercial service. Since the onset of COVID-19, Wyoming has led the nation in passenger recovery, and aviation has played a role in our fight against COVID-19. We've transported personal protection equipment, medical and testing supplies, and now, most recently, the vaccine. Often, aviation's most important role is connecting our citizens with emergency, life-saving medical services. Wyoming and its rural nature means that advanced medical care can sometimes be hundreds of miles away. Accessing that medical care in a timely manner can mean the difference between life and death for some patients. Aviation doesn't just have a big impact on the $2 billion in economic activity and 22,000 jobs. It also contributes over $87 million in state and local tax revenue to further support our state and local communities from the direct impacts alone. Every resident, business, and industry in Wyoming is touched in some way by aviation, from tourism to oil and gas to agriculture, right down to your hometown Main Street. Wyoming residents and industries and businesses rely on aviation, and aviation will continue to be a vital partner in Wyoming's future.
Thank you, Governor Gordon. We appreciate your service to the citizens of the state of Wyoming and your ongoing support of aviation. Next up, we're fortunate to have Director Reiner from the Wyoming Department of Transportation. Mr. Reiner is currently serving as its 18th director. Mr. Reiner's background was that he served nearly 37 years in the National Guard, retiring as the Adjutant General for Wyoming. Along with his dedicated service, Director Reiner brings extensive experience with policy, procedure, and financial background to his service. Please welcome Director Reiner.
Let me thank the governor for his support of aviation in this state and for his clear message about the economic impact that aviation has on this state. He clearly articulated the incredible return on investment that we enjoy. As the director of WYDOT, I'm acutely aware of our purpose, of our why, which fundamentally is to support the economy of our state, to connect our communities, and to improve the lives of those that live in this state. And we do that through a multitude of ways. We do it through running our roads and bridges. We do it through ensuring troopers are ready to respond. We do it by ensuring that our communication systems are up and operational. And we do that through ensuring our drivers are licensed and our vehicles are registered. We also do it by supporting aeronautics throughout the state. And let me just take this opportunity to thank those men and women that work at WYDOT Aeronautics for their support of our locally owned airports across the state. Let me also thank the operators that operate each one of those airports across the state for their incredible passion and their incredible work to support aviation efforts across the state. Every time an aircraft lands and a family gets off to ski or to boat or to go to a rodeo or any of the other multitude of things that this state's enjoy, it's a good thing and it supports our state's economy. Every time a businessman or businesswoman gets off an aircraft and goes to make a deal, it's a good thing for our economy and it helps and supports our state. Every time an aircraft lands with critical life-saving supplies, like the COVID vaccine, it makes our life better here in this state. Every time a life flight takes off with somebody who's sick and flies them to medical care, it's a good thing for our state. Every time a crop duster or a firefighting aircraft takes off to go about their business, it's a good thing for our state. And every time a DoD aircraft lands, it's a good thing for our state and for our nation. And that list could go on. And in the future, I see it expanding significantly into the unmanned aerial systems space. But here's what we know. The future of aviation is bright in the state of Wyoming, and aviation makes Wyoming's future brighter because the governor supports it, our state legislature supports it, as demonstrated through their recent funding of the capacity purchase agreement, and there's a multitude of men and women working at White Odd Aeronautics and working at each one of our airports to ensure that this segment of our transportation system continues to support the economy of our state, to connect our communities, and to improve the lives of those that live in this state. I look forward to being part of that solution and to watching our return on investment continue to make a difference in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Reiner, for your leadership. Next up, we're fortunate to have the chair of the Wyoming Aeronautics Commission, Bill Devore. The Wyoming Aeronautics Commission plays an important role in aviation. They distribute grants, they enhance the economic well-being and quality of life for our citizens across the state. They also are responsible for providing and ensuring a safe and efficient aviation system. Mr. Devore has had his pilot's license since 1980, serving as chief pilot for Sinclair Oil, Columbia Pictures, and Sony Corporation. Now, Bill lives in Casper, who, along with his brother, run the Peterbilt franchises throughout the state with 4 operations.
When most people think about airports in Wyoming, they think of airports served by commercial aircraft, meaning airline service. Well, we have 9 of such airports within the state. In addition to the 9 commercial service airports, we also have another 25 general aviation airports located within the state. Both are important, both serve an important role, and I'll try to illustrate some of the differences. Let's start with airline service airports, or commercial airports, as you will. You can think of Casper, Jackson, the larger airports, where you may have departed or picked up a friend or a family or a business associate. Super important to us, not only outbound for our lifestyle and ability to get around the world, but equally or more importantly, they allow access to both business and leisure travelers to our state. We are super lucky and blessed to have very good, strong legacy carriers serving our markets, as well as a world-class regional carrier serving our markets. We have what's called code share, where you can book a ticket from anywhere in the world into into a state airport, as well as the ability to book outbound from any of our airports to virtually anywhere in the world. Why is this important? Not only does it give us a way to get out, but more importantly, it allows people to come and visit us. It allows people to look at our state in either to maybe move a business here, or to vacation here, or to spend money. All of these activities add to our economy. The second type of airport I'd like to talk about today is what is referred to as a general aviation airport. A lot of people refer to these as small or private airports, although they're not private. That's generally the name they take. You don't know them because if you don't fly an airplane or have a reason to go to one of those airports, you wouldn't know they exist. But they too provide a very critical role within the state of Wyoming. One of the most important roles I can think of right off the top would be air ambulance service from that community to a major or bigger medical center. Provides critical life-saving life support that otherwise wouldn't be available. In the reverse, some of the larger communities fly outbound clinics with medical professionals that provide critical care to patients in smaller rural communities that otherwise wouldn't have nothing provided for. So it provides a very important role in medical. Another really important role, and today it's even more important than ever, would be air freight or overnight freight. We have both UPS and Federal Express flying into these communities on a daily basis and delivering those packages that we all take for granted that come to you in 2 days. They typically get there at some point by air. Another application that comes to mind very strong would be agriculture, aerial spraying for crops, weed control. Another avenue or another application of aviation within Wyoming would be firefighting, aerial firefighting. We all see the season we had last year, and we have it on, people flying on standby out of here that are fighting forest fires out of our aircraft bases, general aviation and commercial service airports as well. And let's also not forget the downstream effects and the trickle down from activities related to aviation. Whether it be a rental car company, a gas station, a hotel clerk or a waitress, the fishing guide, or a ski shop. These all add up and contribute to our economy that make it great. All of our airports within the state of Wyoming play an important role in our state's economy, whether it be tourism, business travel, industry, or life-saving air flights. It all adds up.
Hello, and thank you to Governor Gordon, Director Reiner, and Chairman Devore for their remarks in support of aviation in Wyoming. I'd like now to introduce our panelists for today's discussion. First up is Diane Schobert. Diane joins us from the Wyoming Office of Tourism, where for the past 17 years, she's done a fantastic job and served as the executive director, leading the state's promotional efforts, expanding Wyoming's brand and marketing programs while continuing efforts to grow the tourism and hospitality industry. Next, we have the CEO of the Wyoming Business Council, Josh Durrell, who leads the agency in diversifying and growing Wyoming's economy. Josh brings extensive experience from the private sector in technical sales, business innovation, processes, and identifying customer needs and leveraging partnerships. Next is Mike Wandler, serves as the president of L&H Industries, where he started as a laborer and worked his way up to his current position as president. Since taking charge, Mike has been driven to improve L&H's capabilities, facilities, tools, processes, work culture, and opportunity. Mike served 8 years on the Wyoming Business Council, where he brought a passion for the effects of commercial air service on the business development and focused on Wyoming's economy. Rounding out our panel is the 2017 Wyoming Airport Manager of the Year and nationally recognized in 2019 as a top 40 airport managers under the age of 40. Mr. Devin Brubaker of the Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport. Devin brings a passion for economic development, tourism to his role as the airport director. It is just an indeed honor to welcome this distinguished panel to our group today. Thank you for joining us. It's good to have you with us to share this exciting news. If I might just start this panel discussion off, Diane, and then I'll just kind of work our way through to Josh and Mike and Devin if it works for all of you. Tell me what strikes you about this study and what it really means to your world and how you can project it out into our friends and visitors and business community alike. So Diane.
Thanks, Jim, and good morning, everyone. And just a pleasure to be here today to celebrate something that's exciting about travel. Travel is definitely a foundational component to driving tourism and leisure travel, but it is also a big component in the recovery from COVID. I mean, travel has to be a part of that equation, and to have actual analysis and breakdown of market segmentation and how we can look at this as an economic driver is good for us. It's good for all of us and our strategic partnerships together. From a tourism perspective, when visitors arrive by air, they spend more time in this destination. And so that's more economic benefit from those visitors who are traveling by air into Wyoming. And so from largely leisure travel markets like Jackson Hole, but to other airports across Wyoming, having visitors get into our state and spend time here, whether it's for business or recreation or other leisure opportunities, this is certainly an important part of our overall economy. And we're just grateful that we can be here to be a part of where we are today and how we look at this and strategically grow aviation and air service throughout Wyoming. So thanks so much, Jim, for having me, and just great to be here with all of you this morning.
Well, thank you, Diane. Very grateful to have you with us as well. Josh, would you might take a stab at that same question?
Yeah, absolutely. This study, as well as the aviation infrastructure improvements and service throughout the state, is incredibly important to the business council and really making Wyoming's economy a lot more resilient. Because as we look at the things like recruitment, for example, the companies that are looking at Wyoming are always asking about air service, not just commercial for their employees to move in and out, but also for that general aviation component as well. It's something that always comes up. It's a big deal, and it's something that we want to be able to take pride in and show. But it's not just about those companies that are looking at Wyoming as a place to move. It's also about those companies that want to grow in Wyoming and expand, that are already here. And it makes a huge difference. As I was looking through this report and looking at the idea of leakage to other states, I realized that at one point in my career, I was one of those people who drove to an airport out of state. But as things improved and as the service quality increased, I was able to make my trip shorter, leave from my home of Laramie and travel and then come back. And so it matters a lot, and it makes a big difference for all of the businesses in Wyoming and those that are looking at Wyoming. So it's great to see this. It's great to see the improvements and the investment that's being made, and this report to show that. Thank you.
Great, Josh. I couldn't agree with you more about having access to the world through one or two stops is incredibly valuable to our state. Looking over to Mike. Welcome, Mike. Thank you for joining us. If you'd give us a little bit of the business perspective and what it's meant to you and your colleagues to have air service and aviation options available.
You bet. Thank you, Jim. I've been focused on the subject for about 10 years. I made it my personal focus when I was on the business council. So I've been looking at these reports. I think this may be the third one that I've read completely through. And the striking thing is, it used to be $1 billion value to the state of Wyoming, and now it's $2 billion value. So time makes things more valuable. The other striking thing is how much work has been done by so many incredible people along the way to get it to where it is. And this is kind of a report card that worked. There's more to do. You're not going to be done, but congratulations to everybody that made that happen. It took a lot of people, and this what you've put together here with the press conference and rolling this out, well done. This message needs to get out. It's so important, in my opinion. It's the most important economic development thing for the state. With the return on investment that you can get out of it, it's massive, and everybody needs to know about it. So my lane is the business. So I've got a company in Gillette, started in Gillette in 1964, and we went international in 2000. So in the last 20 years, we've taken it to where almost 100% of our sales were really local to Campbell County. And now there's only 7% that is in the state. The other 93% is national and international. And as we did that, air service becomes a real issue. So being able to get people in and out efficiently, being able to, people have mentioned this already, but I'll go over it from my business perspective. And I'm living this as far as can you maintain headquarters in Wyoming? And that's really what I want for Wyoming. I want businesses like mine to be able to stay in Wyoming, maintain headquarters in Wyoming. But if you're a national or international business, you have to be able to get in and out. You have to be able to get customers, vendors, employees in and out. It's really important. So you see a lot, if you chase the old businesses that grew up in Wyoming, some really large businesses, at some point they set headquarters up near a bigger airport because they don't want to waste their time, having a day or two delay from lack of air service. So really critical for sales. It's really critical for business development. And there's ways around it from a business perspective. So I'd say thank you, state of Wyoming and the locals in Gillette and Sheridan for doing everything you've done. It's been, we've changed a lot, but we need to be able to transition and to grow a business. And the way to do that is to take all of the businesses like mine, heavy industrial, manufacturing, repair, and take that show on the road. We did it. It can be done by a lot of other people, but you need air service. You need good air service to hook that up and for people to be able to grow, for business to be able to stay in Wyoming and to be able to keep those good jobs of the salesmen and the engineers and the executives that are going to be traveling. We want to keep those in Wyoming. We want to be employing Wyoming people. We don't want to have to hire those people that are sitting near an airport. And the other thing that I would say that most people don't understand is this isn't a Wyoming problem. Matter of fact, Wyoming has done an exceptional job of managing this. This is any problem for small town America. So any area without a couple 100,000 people is going to need to treat air service, commercial air service, like they treat roads and bridges. It's going to have to be taken care of by the state. And that's just from a population standpoint. So the air service is important, and I'm thankful that you guys are still working on this, and I'll be there to support you however I can.
Well, thank you, Mike. Your comments about making sure that businesses can locate in Wyoming and have effective connections worldwide, again, is incredibly valuable, and congratulations on growing your business the way you have. Transitioning to Devin Brubaker down in Southwest Wyoming. Devin, you're the airport manager on this panel, as at least one of them. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on as you went through this report, what really stood out to you as an airport person in this state.
Well, thanks, Jim. And I'd like to start saying it's an absolute honor to serve on this panel with such champions for our state, for air service, and you know, all things Wyoming. Diane, Mike, and Josh, a true honor. So appreciate that. In tough economic times like those that we face today, knowing how every single dollar is invested in people, services, and infrastructure, and how those dollars generate a return is critical to decision making, especially fiscal decision making. As we heard from our speakers earlier, aviation in Wyoming is critical to our state's economic vitality. While aviation allows for the movement of people and goods across the country, connecting Wyoming to the global marketplace, it is also the oxygen that fuels our economy in so many ways. This study puts that reality into perspective, highlighting not only the economic value of aviation, but also the other far-reaching impacts, including those generated by cargo, agricultural, wildland firefighting, and medical flights. This study demonstrates that the continued support of commercial air service and airport infrastructure by the governor, the Wyoming legislature, WYDOT, the FAA, and each community across the state provides immense value to the residents, businesses, and industries. On behalf of Wyoming's aviation industry and the Wyoming Airports Coalition, I want to thank the Wyoming Department of Transportation aeronautics staff for all their dedication, not only to this study, but to our state's aviation industry. Without their support, the results found in this study would not be possible. I'd also like to thank the FAA for their continued support of critical planning documents like this, as well as their continued investment in federal dollars into Wyoming's airports. And finally, the most important thing, I want to thank the hundreds of airport, airline, and airport tenant employees across the state for their dedication to operating a safe and secure air transportation system every day. In a year that has been especially trying for our industry, each and every one of them continues to show up with a get-it-done attitude that benefits the entire state. So my handout and my applause to each and every employee at our state's airports for making results like we see in this study a reality.
Well, thank you, Devin. All those thank yous are absolutely spot on, and we're grateful for everyone who's worked hard to get this study to where it is today. I'd also like to include a thank you to Javiation, who was the author of the core report. Just a little bit of kind of process here. We're Remind attendees in the meeting to use the raise hand feature or chat features to ask questions, and then we'll be promoted to ask their question, and we'll try to direct that to the right panelists. For my panelist friends on the call, if you'd use either a visual hand raised or a virtual one, prefer the hand visual if we can, to take on those questions. So it's now time to kind of open up a question from the public and the media. So we'll turn it over to Todd Clemens to ask that question.
Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you, Todd.
Oh, wow. Okay. It actually worked. No, I just was curious if there were any policies or programs in place to help promote business aviation from a standpoint of companies growing their business from within, as not having to rely on commercial transportation to get from point A to point B. It's an infrastructure thing, and a lot of people associate business aviation with Learjets and Gulfstreams and all that kind of stuff, but it also starts on a much smaller level. I just was wondering if there was any programs to, I don't know, outreach into the community or the business community, say, hey, did you ever think about trying, business aviation type thing?
Mike, I see you jumped on that question. So over to you, Mike.
Yeah, so we live this every day. I've got people flying in and out of Gillette and out of Sheridan. I've got close to a couple hundred people up there, and customers and vendors coming in. So we could, we could afford to have our own jet and run it back and forth to Denver as, our own private, so that we could do that, but it would be very expensive and very cumbersome. So rather than do that, what you end up doing is people come through Rapid City, typically, sometimes Casper, but Rapid or Billings. So you find the most efficient way to move people around, right? The worst case scenario for Wyoming is what ends up happening is people won't come and place their business in a smaller town because of that, if you don't have good, reliable air service. So in my opinion, you need to have good, reliable air service, a couple flights a day, so that you can efficiently get in and out. Otherwise, you're going to cause companies to pass on setting up or growing their business in your town. It's got to be convenient. It's about time and it's about money. Unfortunately, that's why so many companies are setting up in bigger cities, and these cities are becoming bigger, right? Now, COVID has pushed people back into the suburbs, which is great, into Wyoming. But in order to retain the higher paid jobs and the executives and create have Wyoming graduates and people born and raised in Wyoming be able to stay in Wyoming and have these bigger jobs, they need to be able to get in and out efficiently. Does that answer the question?
I wanted to point out that I know a number of airports across the state, just kind of going back to that question, have been beneficiaries of Wyoming Business Council support funds to help build infrastructure and make some of those things happen that Todd referenced. And Devin, I know you did some work down in your airport to try to help general aviation be productive and efficient.
Absolutely, Jim. And just to add on to Mike's response, and Todd, appreciate the question. A lot of us airport directors and managers across the state, even at the commercial service airports, recognize that we are general aviation airports that just happen to have commercial air service. Here in Sweetwater County at our airport, general aviation accounts for almost 83% of our operating revenues as an airport. And that when I talk about general aviation, I'm not just talking about those that have their own Cessna 172. I'm talking about the businesses that you reference that fly the Bonanzas, that fly the King Airs, the Cessna 210s. And I think it's critical that our airports continue to do what they're doing to promote that general aviation business and traffic. The visitors that arrive, whether they're arriving for business or for pleasure, here into our state, the visitors, whether they come in on the commercial airline or a general aviation aircraft, are absolutely critical. Diane, we know that tourism is a cash in hand economic development, that it's quick economic development. The minute they get off the plane and they get that rental car, or they go out to eat for dinner, it's immediate impacts, economic impacts. So the business aviation is a focus, and I can say the Wyoming Airports Coalition has a significant focus on promoting all aspects of aviation, not just commercial. So look forward to continuing those efforts with our colleagues around the state.
Yes, Josh, please add.
Thanks, Jim, and Todd, great question, and Devin and Mike, I think did a great job of answering it. And I think just to kind of really kind of summarize what they've said is that there are some indirect procedures and programs and policies that help with that, but not directly. Are we, for example, do we have any policies that promote it directly, or programs that may fund it directly? But again, as they mentioned, through the Business Ready Communities grants and loans, and then through the support, there are things that are indirect to that, but nothing directly related to that. And hopefully, I know Devin and Mike, they definitely did a great job of answering that, but hopefully that answers the question fully for you. And if not, we're happy to connect afterwards as well too. Thanks, Todd.
I'm grateful for that add-on, Josh. Next up, I think Margaret Austin has a question as well. So join us, Margaret. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. This is Margaret over from the Tribune Eagle in Cheyenne. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure can.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of curious, what some of the key factors were that led to that growth in economic activity from, I think, 1.4 billion in 2013 to 2 billion in 2020.
Well, Jim, I might jump in if that's all right with you on that. Having spent quite a bit of time reading the technical report and digesting the data, Margaret, the excellent question. And it really starts with the direct impacts. So the way these economic impact studies work is we start out by focusing on the direct spending of the airport, direct visitor spending, and the direct employment and payroll of each airport. And when you look at the study documents that are available on WYDOT's website, it really clearly shows that the employment increases and the visitor spending increases is what really drove the economic impact increases, economic activity increases. There was also some benefits from capital investment at airports. And once those direct benefits are factored in through survey analysis and data collection that occurred in 2019 and 2020, it then allows them to enter that into the in-plan model, which is a economic impact analysis tool that really broke that out into induced and indirect impacts. So the study really, the difference, that $600 million difference that you see in the study really starts with those direct impacts, and then it goes through that multiplier effect with the in-plan system that really brings us to that number.
Margaret, did that drive to your question and answer it completely?
Yep, that's good. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for joining us, Margaret. One of the areas that is so powerful in this entire report is how tourism plays such a key role. And so if you wouldn't mind, Diane, just talk a little bit more about how the outdoor activities that we're all known for in this great state, what it means when you're working to bring visitors to our community, and how do you view aviation as part of that context?
One of the things I think that is really important to note is that tourism is an export economy. And so when you think about what this really is, that is non-residents coming into Wyoming and spending their money buying goods and services from businesses across the state. We traditionally think of it as overnight hotel stays or maybe restaurants. There's so many other things that visitors do to impact communities. This is the largest private sector employer in the state, the leisure and hospitality industry. That should not be ignored. And so however we can expand this economy and benefit communities, large and small, in all 23 counties across Wyoming, we need to be focusing on those strategies. International travelers, although right now there is virtually no international inbound travel even into the United States, much less into Wyoming. But we know that they rely exclusively on air service to get those travelers into the U.S. and get them into Wyoming. And then It's just a big part of our economy. We were fortunate during the last year when rural destinations really were at the highlight and the forefront of everyone's mind. We did a partnership with the Business Council and Workforce Services on a small media campaign on why relocate, trying to leverage and capture that trend of outward migration of people who live in urban areas and are interested in more rural destinations. Very successful. We were really happy, and we'll be continuing elements of that. But the ability to grow the visitor economy is, as Devin alluded to it is immediate revenue and economic activity in our communities. And so while we rely predominantly in this leisure industry on motor vehicle traffic, we've seen a continual increase over the years in visitors arriving by air, and the opportunity to increase that availability and accessibility into Wyoming is critical in all aspects of growth. Certainly my focus is on the tourism economy, and that's what I do, but I also understand that it's married very tightly to all industries, because that is when we're all at our very best. That's when Wyoming will be at its very best too. So, we're just really dedicated to seeing the growth in this aviation, and hope to see this as part of our recovery, that we can continue to get the commercial flights in, but also access for those visitors who are arriving through general aviation services.
Well, the work you've done over the time, Diane, in helping promote the state of Wyoming is really exceptional, and we thank you for your service.
It's an easy product to sell. Thank you, Jim. We have a good product here.
Isn't that true? Once people come to Wyoming, they want to come back again and again. So we're blessed in that area. Josh, I know you've got a little add to that.
Yeah, and I think you started off by that, right? When people come to Wyoming, they really want to come back, and I think that the work that tourism does to bring those tourists here and to help them really, infuse cash into the economy is huge. But I think there is a secondary thing that is going on, and that helps with our state's economy and really building some resilience in there. And that's a little more of the longer term, because if you think about a vacation, it's like a trial for Wyoming. It's a trial run. It's an opportunity for them to get exposed to how awesome Wyoming is. And what happens with a lot of business owners and people that come to the state, they're saying, gosh, wouldn't it be great if we actually were here every day? Wouldn't it be cool if we could take advantage of the safety and the closeness and the access to the outdoors that Wyoming affords its community members? And so they see it as an opportunity. And so in a lot of ways, it's our best advertisement for business recruitment for sure. But then the other part of it now is what we're seeing after 2020. People are able to work remotely. People are seeing that they now, where before they thought, oh, I've got to go home, go into the office, I've really got to do that. Now we're starting to see people say, oh, I vacationed in Wyoming. I could actually live there and attend work via Zoom, via Google, whatever it might be, and be able to really come to our state and support the economy in a completely different way. And so I think that tourism, not only is it's our second biggest industry, so it's really important there, but it's also a really great way to introduce people to Wyoming and have them become, Wyomingites themselves. So I think tourism is just incredibly important, and aviation makes that happen.
We call that the first date. A vacation is your first date with Wyoming for our business recruitment. So,
well, and I think those points are really powerful ones indeed. And after somebody comes to Wyoming, experiences the lifestyle and what we have to offer, then they choose to make this a home as part of their being able to work remotely, or they relocate their business here. Then having quality access to air service, whether that's through the business aviation or through commercial aviation, it's going to be incredibly vital to make sure this statewide economy continues to move forward. We do have another question from Nick Reynolds. So welcome, Nick.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Can you hear me all right?
We can.
All right, excellent. And this is a pretty impressive report, very extensive. Haven't gotten to dig through all of it yet, but it's been good to see that there was an overall substantial gain in 2020 after everything that we kind of experienced this year. But I did notice on page 42 of the technical report, it was mentioned that activity at some airports had declined, and the ROA at some airports were still lagging a little bit. And I was just wondering if there was maybe a plan to, I guess, bolster some of the activity at some of those airports that saw declines, and maybe looking forward at the current administration, particularly the new Secretary of Transportation, if you guys see any promise in maybe some policies coming down the pike that might potentially help to strengthen the performance of those.
Devin, thank you.
Helps if I unmute myself, so apologize for that. But thanks, Nick, for the question. The new administration does bring with it, obviously, some challenges for the state of Wyoming, but there are also some opportunities that come along. And one of those is, Congress and the administration working on transportation infrastructure packages and COVID relief packages. At a lot of these smaller airports that maybe saw some declines from 2013 to 2020, there's just a few of them. And a lot of that has to do with just the data processing and the interpretation of data. So when you dig into the report and look at some of those numbers, and I know you haven't had a lot of time to do it with that being published just today, there's a lot of variables for each of those airports. And if you look at one airport, if you have one business that has, let's say the owner's retired and closed up shop, it can have a significant impact on their economic activity, whereas something like that at a larger airport might not have as large of an impact, or it may be covered up by another new business that's moved in. So without addressing each individual airport, I can just say there's a lot of different variables that have impacted that. And the Wyoming Airports Coalition represents all of our airports across the state. And we are working very closely with our congressional delegation. We're working with the Wyoming legislature, working with the FAA and WYDOT to make sure that we deliver results at every one of our airports.
Great. Mike, I think you had a little follow-up on that as well.
Yeah, I'll take a little different angle on that, and that is from the business standpoint. Last year was quiet. Our customers didn't want to see us because of COVID, and they weren't buying anything. They wanted everything done on Zoom if they wanted to talk to you at all. And I think that was the norm in the world that we all know. So it was, it did pull back, but this is why you need the capacity purchase agreement, why the state and the local government needs to maintain the capacity purchase agreement. Because if you're setting up your business, if you're thinking about coming to Wyoming and setting up a business like mine, you're going to wonder, is there service there, right? And then is it sustainable? So we have to keep it sustainable, and you have to keep enough flights sustainable to where tourism and business can rely on them. So I think the capacity purchase agreement, that's what it's for, is the tough times. And we can't be afraid to spend that money to keep enough flights going to where we're taking care of our people and making it efficient for them to get in and out. And then when things are booming, there's a lot of pent up demand. So now it's all unleashing. So this year it's going to be a crazy spike. And what you don't want to have is no flights, or you've given your planes away to some competing state, some competing airports in other states. We need to keep those here. We need to keep the big airlines committed to serving us. So that's the exact reason for the capacity service agreement. And I would imagine with the Business Council trying to, recruit new businesses, or usually it's try to keep old businesses growing in Wyoming instead of growing somewhere else. That's normally what it is. Keep L&H in Gillette, growing headquarters in Gillette and placing people in Gillette. You've got to guarantee air service, no different than you have to guarantee roads. You need those things as your basic infrastructure to prosper.
Excellent, Mike. Devin, you had a little bit extra to add to that?
Yeah, and another answer to Nick, and I apologize I didn't bring this up earlier, is one of the factors of this study, it looks at the capital investment made at airports. So if you have one of those smaller airports that did see a decline, a deeper dive into that one will be a YouTube highlight right there. A deeper dive into their individual airport might show that they had a large runway project or a large taxiway project back in 2013 or when that study was completed, but they haven't had that large capital investment this year. So just another aspect of why there may be some variability there especially for the smaller airports that has a much bigger impact.
Good point, Devin. Thank you very much. Josh, I would love to kind of ask you the question about what it's like when you're looking to recruit a new business to the state of Wyoming, and how does air service play into that conversation? And perhaps you even have an example that made a difference for a company to be located here in Wyoming. Can you help us a little bit with some background and how you interface with potential businesses coming to Wyoming?
Yeah, and I can tell you that being here a year, we're working on recruitments right now that haven't necessarily come to fruition, but they're definitely enhanced by aviation and air travel, and it is the question that people ask all the time, depending on the types of companies, of course, that you're recruiting. I think it might be better to talk a little bit about the topic that Mike brought up. Mike Wandler earlier about keeping businesses in Wyoming and helping them expand, because we do have a number of businesses in Wyoming that have far-reaching, whether it be their customers, whether it perhaps be their home offices are outside of Wyoming, and we want to be able to serve them and allow them to grow. And maybe the best example of that is one that's a couple of them that are really close to home to me. My last two companies that I worked with were UL, Underwriters Laboratories, and Tri-Hydro. UL, we were a satellite of their main office in Chicago. And so being able to travel in and out of Laramie was very important to us. And it allowed us to really reach customers, and it allowed us to bring in talent and have them move to Wyoming. But then at Tri-Hydro, I would say that it was probably one of the biggest reasons or biggest things that helped them grow was being able to reach out and work with customers from Laramie, Wyoming, although their customers were all over the United States, and especially in some of the areas like California, being able to travel when you're a company that's all about billability and working with clients. Anytime you're in transit, you're not helping the company grow and earn revenue. And so one of the things that was really important for them was that access to an airport and being able to grow in this state and now become a very large employer in the state. That I have to say that air travel was extremely important. So, it is something that comes up. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we talk to a lot of companies who care about general aviation just as much as commercial. Right. And so I do think both sides of that coin are important. I think Devin said it best about, we're general aviation that happens to have a commercial flights. And I don't want to steal your words there, Devin, or misquote that. But I think that is something that we can't overlook, is the importance of both sides of that coin to companies that are moving in. Really, really critical, really important, especially as, again, they want to on one hand get away to a place like Wyoming, which the remoteness is attractive to them, but they also have to be able to make that connection with their customers or home offices.
Great explanation, Josh. Appreciate that. I did want to kind of flip and take that same theme over to Mike, because we've talked about economic development, we've talked about retaining and drawing businesses to the state of Wyoming. Mike, would you speak a little bit about how that plays into recruiting quality talent, retaining quality talent in your business, and what air service, both general aviation and commercial, might mean to your business?
Yeah, so the recruiting and retainment of talent is important. I mean, people want to fly on vacation. They want to be able to, efficiently move around and the biggest part though really is the customers. Customers don't want to have 2 days or 1 day added to their flight time to come and see us, right? And if we can get customers in to see our shops and work with our people, then we have them. We've got a lifetime customer. but they really avoid, flying into a small town that adds a day or two to their round trip. And that's what we have going on if we're down to 1 or 2 flights a day coming in. So they choose not to come, which is disappointing because you got the tourism aspect. If they come, they're going to spend money. They're going to tour around. And I agree, they're going to fall in love with the place. So then you get back into talent, right? So I have the ability now, especially with Zoom, to hire people from anywhere in the world, and they can really work from anywhere in the world they are. I would rather be hiring Wyoming people that are going to stay in Wyoming, because if my team, my executive team, my salesmen are in Wyoming, guess what? They're going to spend their money in Wyoming. They're going to buy their houses in Wyoming. They're going to start their own businesses in Wyoming, and you just need to make it easy for them to do that. So that, and it's really, when you're talking about business, you're talking about being competitive. It's hard to find somebody that doesn't fall in
great
love with
points
Wyoming.
all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. I think I might have stepped on you. My apologies for that.
That's okay.
Devin, would you speak a little bit about how airports are going to use this document? What do you plan on doing in your community to spread the word and what this study really means to letting and educating the communities about how we're doing and what aviation really means to all of us in the state, whether you use it routinely or you don't?
Well, thanks, Jim. On a broader scale, to everybody that's out there and virtually watching this today, each of our airports that are in the study will be doing their own rollout of their local airport economic impact information. That information is available on the website, the Whiteout website, but each airport will have their own rollout, whether that is using social media, press releases, meeting with chambers of commerces, the Rotarians, the Kiwanis. We'll be getting out. And here in Sweetwater County, we're going to be getting out and spreading the good news. Our industry desperately needs good news. The last 10 months have just been a rough 10 months in the aviation industry. And it's exciting to be able to get these numbers out to the public. Here in Sweetwater County, we have some significant capital infrastructure projects in front of us, a commercial terminal modernization program, as well as some development on the general aviation side of our business. And it's important that when we speak to residents, when we speak to local businesses and industries, that they really recognize the economic value. Every dollar we invest in capital, every dollar we invest in operations has an immediate return back into the economy. And the commercial air service return on investment study, for every dollar that we spend on air service in Wyoming, it's 13 direct dollars back into the economy. So I think it's that information is going to help those that are in your role, Jim, my role around the state, to really sell our projects, sell the value of aviation in airports, and continue to charge forward. And as we enter what's likely to be one of the toughest budget seasons that we've ever encountered everywhere in the state, this information is going to help us make sure that we target our investments, target our expenditures where it maximizes return on investment, not just for the airport, but for the communities we serve. The fence, the perimeter fence around our airports, the airport doesn't stop there. It extends into the communities that we serve, the regions that we serve. And it's important that every dollar we invest, we make sure it has a maximum impact on those communities. So I hope that answered your question. It's very valuable information, and we're excited to be able to put it to work immediately.
Well, thank you, Devin. I see we're kind of coming up on about an hour of chatting about this study, and I want to start to close it down and let other people go on to the rest of your day. I really am so very grateful to Diane, Devin, Mike, Josh for your time and efforts. Of course, the governor and Director Reiner and Chair Devore for opening this particular session. And I hope that people will continue to reference this study. And there's a tremendous amount of information in there about how we are aviation is an important ingredient to the success of the state of Wyoming. And when you think about $2 billion worth of impact, 9.5% of the jobs, it really does add up, and that we need to continue to invest in aviation and aviation infrastructure throughout the state. I'd like to close with a comment of thanks to Javiation, who created the report. They do these many locations and states across the country. I think they did a fantastic job on this particular report. And with that, I will say thank you to each and every one of you who joined in today's press conference. We look forward to hearing from you again. If there are further questions that you'd like to ask, there's an ability to ask those questions. And of course, we'll be posting this on the YouTube, and you can reference the Wyoming Aeronautics Commission website. With that, I wish you all a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, panel.
We've all grown so accustomed to seeing contrails that it's easy to forget that everyone tells a story. Consider that aviation accounts for 5% of Wyoming's economy in direct and induced economic activity. It helps support more than 9% of the state's employment and connects every industry and sector of the economy to each other.
ACAT 453, pilot's discretion below 8,500 and 4152 on the box. ACAT 453.
Each year, millions of letters and packages fly into our sparsely populated state. Almost every online purchase, every package, or Amazon order we expect to arrive quickly requires Wyoming aviation infrastructure.
Mass 25 X-ray, flight 320 and drop 14 DME, Rock Springs at 7200. Mass 25 X-ray.
Although 2020 turned out to be a strange year, life marches on, and the necessity of air service in Wyoming's aviation industry continues undimmed and undiminished.
United 14, Jackson Tower, good day. Wind 180 at 6, altimeter 3001, runway 19er, clear to land, number 2 behind the citation 500, short final.
The way of life we enjoy here, the freedom, the opportunity, the prosperity, health, and education, all of it has roots up in the sky.
We have can-do people, that get-her-done attitude, and these airports are part of that, and great doing business here in Wyoming.
When I discovered Wyoming, I discovered a really great secret.
Having the state of Wyoming support and invest in aviation makes my professional life and my personal life so much better.
Aviation in Wyoming saves lives.
Agriculture, business, education, forest management and fire suppression, jobs and opportunity, healthcare, tourism, vacations. Wyoming Aviation makes our way of life possible.
Cessna 405 Papa Mike, take runway 28 for straight out departure. Thanks for all your help. Have a good night.